just like storm clouds down the line. But it started raining early and you're running out of time. And the devil's in your basement, he's climbing up the stairs. He's here, there, and everywhere. Well, there's horror in the headlines and it's getting worse each day. But if you want to hear some good news, get yourself to church and pray. 'Cause when the devil is your anchor man, he chooses what to share. He's here, there, and everywhere. Maybe the road is hidden. Maybe you stop looking too. Maybe you'll find you're not so colorblind. Maybe there's something left to do.
Hi, I'm Terran P. Lupo, and I'm a gardener. Well, sort of. I live in Savannah, Georgia, and currently we're getting close to October. You can even hear the cicadas still if you listen. We're in cicada season. I've had my successes. Just look at this Thai basil plant that I cloned. These were actually pretty tough to find here in Savannah. We finally located them in an Asian market. Once I got the roots growing well in water, I transplanted them and put them into my wood chip garden. I've also had my failures too. This poor avocado tree was only one day from retirement. And this poor avocado tree, it never even learned to read. Cut. An unexpected phenomenon has been occurring in this country over the last 50 years. People of all kinds of unrelated professions have dropped out of their jobs and decided to become farmers. Most of these adventurous folks have no prior experience in farming. They just got to a point where they said, screw this job, I'm going to become a farmer. Over the last 50 years, many small independent family farms have either been bought up, bankrupted, or been legislated out of business. Most of the food today is produced and owned by massive corporations. So with all the cards stacked against the little guys, how are some of these micro farms surviving and even thriving in this hostile environment? I say we go find a couple and find out what their secret is. Many new farmers start with just chickens, so I decided to talk to my own local chicken lady. Susanna Bailey breeds chickens and sells them to other farmers who want to bulk up or start their own flocks. Her husband Mike and her have a reputation in the community for producing some of Savannah's finest fowl. People make long drives from multiple states just to get their hands on her rare breeds. Most folks are surprised to find out she's not a full-time farmer.
Well, I'm actually a chemist, but I do this because I love the animals so much, and I don't like to be bored. So when I get home, I'll work with animals.
I asked her to give me a tour of her most popular breed.
These are the Morans. This variety is called a splash Moran, the hens are. The rooster is what's called a blue copper Moran. And the reason I have a rooster in here is I have an order for hatching eggs. And a blue Moran rooster over splash hens will produce 50% splash to blue Morans.
These eggs are so prized that they go for about $35 a dozen in the right season.
All right, these are Morans. They originate in France. And they lay eggs just about every single day, and their eggs are very, very dark brown. So I have a lot of customers that prefer the dark brown layers.
Through trial and error, she's become quite good at hatching all kinds of poultry.
This is the brooder house. It's just a little handy house that I use to put my incubators and hatchers in. The chicks, once they hatch and leave the hatcher, I keep them in the little tubs with heat lamps until they're about 3 weeks old. I do that until they're old enough to go outside in the outside pens. And those also have heat lamps. You have to keep chicks at 95 degrees the first week and 5 degrees less each week until they're fully feathered. Once they get to within 4 days of hatching, they go in the hatching tray here. And these are actual turkey eggs that hatched, the last ones that hatched. They hatch in this tray in the bottom of the hatcher there. And once they're all out and dry and walking around, and everybody's done, then the hatcher tray comes out and the chicks get to go in the little tubs with heat lamps on them with water and food.
One of the hardest parts of breeding chickens is just keeping them safe. Susanna has found a way to keep a peaceful truce with a local den of foxes. Like sacrificing a virgin to appease a dragon, she culls her sick birds once a week and offers them up as tribute. Instead of burning the carcasses, she throws them in front of the fox's den in the woods. This has reduced attrition dramatically, but she still has a second line of defense for other predators.
This is Holmes. He's a miniature mule. He's 4 years old. He is not nice. He is just, his whole purpose in life is to keep fox and coyotes out of this pen. And he does a very good job. We pen him in his little corral in the afternoons whenever I have to feed the chickens, because you don't want to be out here with him, because he's not a really nice mule.
You mean he's kind of a jerk?
He's pretty much an ass.
So what would you do over if you could start from the beginning again?
I would not hatch as many chickens. I went way overboard and had way too many, had to build more pens. They're built now, so that's good, but in the future I will only be hatching a limited amount of birds that people are wanting instead of so many.
So what kind of advice would you give to someone who's just starting out that doesn't know anything about chickens?
I would suggest finding someone who has chickens that can help you, because books and the internet are great, but first-hand experience is wonderful. And if you can get a mentor to help you, that's the best way to go.
Of course, most people starting out don't want to invest the money setting up a chicken farm this size before they even know if they like it. A good place to start is your own backyard. Michelle Paget and Scott Morgan live in Midtown Savannah. They invited me over to check out their coop they built in their own backyard. They keep it small and simple to handle, but living in the city has a very different set of complications.
Well, I know in some places in the country there are legal problems that legal hurdles people have to jump over to be able to have chickens, but here they're pets. It's perfectly legal for us to have up to 5 birds. We can't have a rooster though, because we're too close to the neighbors. And I guess that's our biggest problem with raising chickens in the city is space. I mean, we just have a little yard, and chickens require a lot of grazing space. So if we were out in the country, they'd be able to roam more and we'd be able to have a rooster to protect them. But as it is, we've just got our little setup here.
So what advice would you give to someone who just wants to set up chickens for the first time in their backyard?
I would not underestimate the existence and tenacity of the predators that exist in your area. Learn about what eats chickens and what's around, because we had no idea how many possums, raccoons, hawks, etc. were going to come around. Even cats were pawing underneath the coop and unloosed one of the wooden planks and ate one of the chicks before we had time to stop it. So you just never know what is hungry for a chick or chicken. So learn about how you can keep them safe.
So Michelle, tell me, how do you keep your chickens safe?
Well, that's probably the most important thing that we've had to deal with, because it turns out everything eats chickens. We keep them enclosed in the pen. At night we close them up in a coop so raccoons and possums don't get them. During the day, hawks are a problem, and we've strung fishing line in sort of a web overhead to keep the hawks from coming down into the pen to get them. But
that's helped?
Yes, it did. We haven't had any hawk attacks since we strung up the fishing line, so that's good news, but we'll see. It's like an arms race. Every time you fix a problem, the predators find a way through it, or the chickens find a way out of it, so it's like a game.
Scott shares some advice on how to make a low-cost pen for the first time.
Well, there are a lot of potential designs. There's no need to reinvent the wheel unless you want to. I mean, you can get online and there's all kinds of designs, from having no money to wanting to spend $500 on a fence and a coop. But we bought our coop for $200, and we originally just had this chicken wire here and some of these wooden planks, but then they were getting under the wire, and so then we did the pallets. Now they're getting over the wire. We've got one or two that are actually still able to fly even though we've clipped their wings, so we're going to actually raise it up with more chicken wire just a little bit higher, and hopefully that'll quell them.
Michelle goes on to tell us what breed she recommends for beginners.
There is a website, I think it's mybackyardchicken.com or backyardchickens.com or something. They'll go through the whole breeds and they'll tell you which breeds are aggressive and which breeds are friendly and which breeds lay eggs better. This is Goldie, and she is a Wheaton Americana, which is a breed of chicken that lays blue eggs, so we're very excited about her. And this breed tends to be very calm, very docile. There are others that are a little more aggressive. Some of ours are just not friendly at all, but as you can see, Goldie's a sweet girl. So I would say do your research. If you want a friendly chicken, you can get them that you can pet and dress up and paint their nails.
Raising chickens inside a city sometimes has some unintended side effects. Failed farmers tend to dump their chickens in the government parks here in Savannah. People have been dumping their birds for about 3 years now here in Daffin Park. It didn't take long for these feral fowl to take full advantage of their new environment. What I found fascinating was just how fast these chickens went from domesticated birds back to their wild ways. In just a few generations, these chickens could protect themselves and even flourished. The wild chickens have done well fitting in with the community. They contribute by keeping the bug population down, eating the scrub, and even fertilizing part of the yard. But mostly, it's entertainment value. People just really enjoy seeing chickens when they go out for their walk, and they become much loved in the community. I'm even told that some breeds of chickens need very little care and take care of themselves. Chickens like jungle fowl and bantams will actually fly up to trees at night and protect themselves. Seeing these wild chickens survive here shows you just how tough they really are. But don't be fooled. Most breeds will do very poorly if you leave them on their own. So you feel you got chickens down and you're feeling more adventurous. Well, the next step for most people are goats. Wendy and Richard Cowart run a small goat farm called Bootleg Farm. They mainly focus on goat milk and cheeses.
Well, we decided to go with goats initially because we wanted pets, just to have goats around the house. And then we decided that if they were going to stay with us, that they had to be able to provide something back to us. And we didn't really want meat goats, so we decided to do dairy goats and enjoy the milk.
Is it true that goats do a lot of damage around your farm?
They will eat all the bushes and shrubs that you have because they're more browsers like deer. They're not really grazers, although they will graze. They prefer the trees and the bushes, and so if you need land clearing, they're awesome for that.
So what kind of advice would you give to someone who's thinking about raising goats that's never done it before?
You have to have plenty of space for them. They don't like to be very confined, although they do okay in confinement. They're more prone to diseases and other problems in a smaller area. And if you're not set up or ready to have small baby goats, you do not need to get a buck.
So what are some of the problems with having bucks?
Bucks typically will go through a rut season, which is their mating season or their breeding season, and it lasts anywhere from August to, say, March, and they stink very, very badly. They will pee on themselves, and the girls think it smells wonderful, but it really, really, really stinks.
One last piece of advice from Wendy was make sure that you get more than one goat. Goats are herding animals, and if you only get one, they'll make your life miserable as well as they'll be sad. Now that you know a little more about goats, perhaps you'd like to try your hand at cattle. Welcome to Hunter Cattle Company. The farm is located in Brooklet, Georgia, about 40 minutes outside of Savannah. It sits on over 300 acres of reclaimed Georgia swampland that was once an Indian village. Hunter Cattle is a fully functional and self-contained small farm. They raise pigs, chickens, turkeys, and of course cattle. They mainly focus on raising two breeds, Black Angus and Black Baldies. The owners have rapidly grown over the last 10 years with no signs of slowing down. They have 4 full-time employees and a very large part-time staff. The Fergusons recently have become large enough to even construct their own on-site processing facility. Now the family can keep that money that they were outsourcing to a slaughterhouse. This is especially impressive since their former profession was not farming.
Well, we've always had a family business. I worked with my dad, and then my son and daughter started working with me and my wife, and we did some construction work. And when they became families of their own with children, we all wanted to get out on a farm and raise our own food.
Del explained to me why he decided to start with cattle.
Well, I love cows, hanging out with them in the pastures, and just on a quiet afternoon to hear them chewing the cud and just be out there in the middle of them is wonderful. And people might say, well, how can you end up having a cow on the plate? But that's all part of the how it goes.
One of the things the family does really well is community outreach. Most people in Savannah and the surrounding areas know exactly who they are and what they do. They even put on a Farm Heritage Day and invite everyone to come. Instead of competing with their neighbors, they instead invite them to show off their farms too.
I think probably the best way is to open up the farm for people to come see. And once or twice a year we have a day that we just tell all our neighbors and friends and customers, hey, come out and see what we got going on. Just want to promote our Hunter Cattle Company. We want to promote all the farmers that are doing their best to survive and at the same time provide food for the plates. And we invite all our farmer neighbors out here also, and just give people an education of what it takes to eat.
The family also does community outreach by helping out some of the local humane societies.
Well, they'll call us up and they'll say they've got a cat or two that needs a home, and they're always happy to bring it out because they know that this is a wonderful place. Of course, the cats are also functional. If a cat can chase down a rat, that's the best pest control we got. Some of the cats here end up having kittens, and you can have people come out to the farm and see dozens of animals and still will sit there and pet the cat, so people love the kittens.
Hunter Cattle Company is a working family farm. Every family member has a job and they're expected to pull their own weight. They also cut loose and have lots of fun as a family too. But having young children presents some unique problems at harvest time.
I just think it's a part of our life. It's just a way of life. I had somebody the other day ask, how do you teach your 7-year-old to axe down and cut down a tree? And I thought to myself, it's nothing we taught him. That's just what he's been doing his whole life. And I think so, as far as farming, this is all they know. And they know that we raise our own meats to eat. And for us, we would rather raise them and know what we're putting in our bodies and know they're treated right and eat them than just eat something that we had no clue about.
Kristen goes on to share about some of her experiences with having children working with her on the farm.
It is an adventure, and I think they think it's such an adventure. Every morning they want to get through their homeschool work super fast just so they can get down to the barn and start working, which I think is really amazing. Now when they're teenagers, I'm not quite sure if they're going to think all this farm work is as amazing. So you know what? Some of them might want to stay on the farm and keep farming, and some might want to do something different, and that's totally fine.
Deborah Ferguson was quickly hit with reality about owning a farm.
Well, I didn't realize that when we bought the farm, we really bought the farm, and that it was a whole new lifestyle. It was no more vacations, no more trips to town because you've got 1,000 mouths to feed, and no more good night sleeps because you're worried something might get out or something might be sick. So it's a whole new ball game.
Deborah found out that simple things like taking a vacation were a huge ordeal.
Well, before we bought the farm, we would go to missions a couple of times a year and vacation. Now it's pretty much impossible for the whole family to go anywhere together. We have to leave somebody here to look after things. We do have good help, but it's still not the same as having your family member here to take care of business.
Their son Anthony shares a warning about cattle.
Well, one of the biggest things is you're really going to need to love it in order to be able to do it, because if you don't love it, you're going to be giving up a good steady paycheck for a bunch of nothing for a while. So if you plan on doing cattle, you better love it.
He also shares some advice on how some new farmers can avoid making expensive mistakes starting out.
Well, one of the bigger is electric fence along the highway. You know, during the middle of a storm, if power goes out, you always have to worry about the cows running out into the road. Another thing is you really got to watch and manage your money very well. And then make sure also that when you're breeding cows, have a low birth weight bull. A low birth weight bull means a lot. You want to make sure you throw a lower birth weight on your calf. When we first got into it, we bought some bred cows that were bred to a high birth weight bull. And the calves came out anywhere between 100 and 140 pounds. And we ended up having to pull a lot of calves that year. But you want to try to stick somewhere between 60 and 80 for most of your cows, especially for when you have a heifer that's never had a calf. So that really will help out.
Their son Hunter spent most of his life on this farm and now is struggling if he wants to leave.
Well, it's a blessing to grow up on a farm. It's something that not a lot of people get to experience. Since I was 11, I've been here. You know, the Lord has truly blessed it. I have been praying whether it's His will to leave or to stay, and waiting for an answer. And as soon as I know, we'll go from there. But for right now, this is where I'm at.
Hunter Cattle also monetizes its company by offering overnight stays at the farm. Perhaps you're not ready for livestock. A lot of new farmers start out just growing vegetables. Kevin and Melissa Brown run Kachina Farms, located in Rincon, Georgia. They mainly focus on growing high-quality organic vegetables for high-end restaurants in Savannah. Melissa, so give me an idea of what you did before as a career and why you decided to go into farming.
I was in the medical field. I was working at St. Joseph Candler, and my husband, due to health issues, was laid off, and we did this on a small scale just to give him something to do, just to kind of, you know, pass the time. And we did not realize that there was no organic herb farm in the area, certified organic. So we ventured out to a couple of people to see if it would benefit or profit, and kind of find out word of mouth. We started getting customers and restaurants calling every day.
Melissa explains what hoops and regulations you have to jump through to become certified organic.
It's not a whole lot of hoops. Just call the Georgia Department of Ag, and they can get you set up with an inspector. They can give you the rules and regulations that they require. If your farm's never been tilled or never been farmed, then it's not hard. If it has, then you have to wait 3 years to be certified.
Even in Georgia, if you want to grow year-round, you're going to need a greenhouse. Kevin gives some tips on how to build one economically.
Commercially bought greenhouses are extremely expensive. For small scale and even medium scale farms, you can probably build your own greenhouse using treated wood driven into the ground and fence railing, which is I did here in this greenhouse. We did it for a fraction of the cost. The large greenhouses come $4,000 to $5,000. This one, had we not used, if we'd bought it all new wood, maybe 1,200 at the most. The only thing to not skimp on ever is the plastic. The plastic is a greenhouse grade. The stuff you buy at Lowe's, however, will degrade in 1 year and break. This will last 4 to 7 years.
One of the more interesting things the farm does is actually grow their own worms.
All of our cuttings and waste, paper waste, culled peppers and plants that we can't sell or use are put in our worm bins, and the worms will break down all of this material. It takes about 3 weeks to go from what's first applied to usable worm castings. This is about a week out, or 2 weeks out, excuse me. They've already broken down the newspaper and a lot of the material. There's thousands of worms in this bed, but this black material you see on top, that's the worm castings already developing. But again, it started from this down here. All right, the sandy loam we have down here in the southeast is difficult to grow in because it's mostly sand and won't hold nutrients. So worm castings are one of the best ways to add organic matter to that sand. Once you combine it, it becomes a great medium for raised beds, or to even apply to you know, a growing medium. And we use a shaker that we made out of wood and screen wire, and we use it to separate the worms from the castings. And once we shake it out, all the castings drop to the bottom, and then we have a product we can use in the nursery.
If you want to make maximum profits, you have to get good at growing seedlings. Kevin shares some advice.
The worm castings are combined with peat moss, and with the peat moss and the castings together, it creates our growing medium. And we take the growing medium and put it in these Dixie cups, of which we drill a small hole in the bottom for drainage. And we'll fill hundreds of these up and put our seeds in it. And like for this cilantro, it was about 2 weeks and we've got plants. Two of the main products that we can use as organic growers, especially for bugs and fungicide, is neem oil. It's used by most of the organic growers. It's neem oil comes from the neem tree, and it's applied using water as its carrier. And the great thing about it is that it once coated on a plant, it produces a covering that is very bad tasting to most insects, and it's a fungicide to prevent tamping off or any other fungus disease on the plant. The other one is Bacillus thuringius, BT, and that is a worm killer, which we get cutworms and webworms, and that's probably our second biggest problem. And this is one of the only available products we have that we use.
Melissa shares some marketing advice for new farmers starting out.
I would first go and meet the farmers that are in your area, find out what they are selling, what they are not selling. I would also go to chefs that are in your area. Look at food co-ops. Look at what their need is. Look at what they've got too much of and what they're really in need of, and that way maybe you can have a niche in the market that nobody else has.
To find out more about growing herbs and exotic vegetables, I went to see my friend at Ogeechee River Gardens.
My name is Michelle Pokrant. My farm is Ogeechee River Gardens, and it's located in Richmond Hill, Georgia.
Michelle is actually a professional gambler. She uses the money she earns from farming to bankroll her buy-ins. She mainly sells her vegetables at the local farmers market. She focuses on some unique vegetables and flowers to supplement her income.
The bitter melon's been a really good niche market. It sells mostly to the Asian community, Hawaiian, Polynesian, Indian. There's lots of different names for it. It's a very bitter fruit, beautiful fruit. It's in the gourd family, and it is so easy to grow. You just got to knock the stink bugs off occasionally.
Michelle also gives some advice on how to self-pollinate your vegetables that grow in a greenhouse.
Take the electric toothbrush, you put it on the stem, you vibrate the little flowers to get the pollen to knock back in there. Tomatoes are self-pollinating. They do not need a flower of another tomato. So you just can do it yourself when the bees are less active and you're growing in a high tunnel to get them to create a tomato.
Michelle shares some advice on using high beds and grow bags to make your life easier and save some money.
Made these beds because I'm getting older and I don't feel like bending down in the dirt. So I can be at this height, harvest, plant, and also I can fit more in a bed than I can in rows in the garden because I don't have to have walking rows in my raised beds. And plus I have better drainage, I have better control. It seems like I have better control of the insects, and it's just 100% easier for me than being in the ground. On the bottom, the first bottom two boards of the boxes, I've got just topsoil in there, and the top, say, 10, 12 inches is an engineered soil that I get from a soil scientist that is just wonderful, supercharged soil, and there I am able to ensure that my plants are going to grow wonderfully because the soil is so well drained and so well put together.
So what do you use to fertilize?
I use anything that has to do with the sea, such as fish emulsion, seaweed, kelp, crushed up lobster and crab shells. I just think that the minerals from the sea does a really great job on the fertilization. The bags are grow bags. They're very inexpensive. Fill them up with the good soil, plant out whatever plants I want to grow. In the spring I do tomatoes. Here I'm doing a bunch of fresh herbs, parsley, sorrel, dandelion, tatsoi, mizunas, and I have a drip system going on in here. There's a drip tape, we call it. I don't know if you can see this drip tape. And every 18 inches it has a hole and it automatically waters every morning so I don't have to. The ground cover we're using is a polypropylene fabric that just helps control weeds in the agricultural industry, and it's a lifesaver for me because I don't make money pulling weeds.
It's much more profitable to start your plants out from seeds. Michelle shows us how she does hers.
I start out with seeds in plug trays, and then from the plug trays I move them up into a 4-inch pot, and once they're rooted into a 4-inch pot I take them out into the garden beds and plant them out for the season and grow them out that way.
Michelle shares one last piece of advice for new farmers, a way to make good money by keeping it simple.
Well, cut flowers is very highly profitable and so easy to grow. There's so many beautiful zinnia seeds now that are geared for farmer people growing. Sunflowers and zinnias, beautiful cut flowers, long lasting, and they sell out first thing at the market. If you start at 9, by 10:30, 11, you'll be sold out.
Perhaps you don't want to really grow anything. Maybe you just want to tap existing trees. Check out this maple sugar farm in upstate New York.
My name's Gary Wohlschlegel. I grew up on a grape farm, dairy farm. I went to work at a large company for 30-some years, and then I lost my job and I started looking into the maple business. All right, in the springtime, early spring, we tap the trees. We put a spout on the line, put it in the tree, and when the sap starts dripping, then we turn on the vacuum sucks it out of the tree, and then it runs by gravity down to the pump house. Pump house sends it back up to the evaporator in the sugar house. When we start getting sap down to the pump house, we go and pump it up here to the sugar house. The sugar house, we collect it in a large tank. Then we run it through the reverse osmosis, which takes away 80% of the water, and then we concentrate that down to about 12% sugar. We put it in a concentrate tank, and then when the concentrate tank gets full, Then we turn on the evaporator and we start concentrating it even farther until we get up to about 66 bricks. And then we filter it and put it in barrels.
I asked Gary just how much final product do you get per tree. The answer was surprising.
1/3 to 1/2 gallon depending on the season. Could be even 1/4 gallon of syrup, finished syrup. So on a good year, maybe 1/2 gallon.
Gary explains what are the favorable conditions that make a tree flow better.
Cold nights and warm days. So if we could get into the mid-20s at night and then go up into the high or mid or low 40s would be great.
How long does that season last?
6 weeks on average. About 30 days they figure of actual running. This maple plaque shows what tap hole maple is, or what, when you tap holes in a maple tree, how it configures the wood and kind of stains it. You can see all where the tap holes are. You can see the streams of coloration that it runs through the wood and stuff. Yes, my advice for getting into any sort of work is to do your background. We went to a lot of seminars, got educated on the whole maple process, and then also on the maple end, building your sugar house, getting all your setups done, get a person with a lot of advice, a lot of knowledge, and go from there.
Ernest and Donna Hancock run a radio show together in Phoenix, Arizona. They also have a news service called freedomsphoenix.com. In their yard they have chickens, and they're growing their own vegetables. Their main focus right now is their aquaponics system. They made a completely self-sustainable aquaponics system which runs on solar generators. Their idea was that they could pack up their system at any time and be able to put it anywhere and get their own food, power, and clean water.
The fish that we chose, the tilapia, was because they're a Nile fish. They have, low oxygen, it's a lot of heat, it's just like Phoenix. So Egypt, Cairo is Phoenix. So these fish come from the same kind of environment that they'll be in here. The main thing that we had, this water feature was here when we first moved here, and we wanted to make use of it. And so what we did is we just have a sump pump that pumps it into that top pipe that feeds the aquadome, and then it returns here. Well, we also have the waterfall area that we can use. We're going to be doing plants up here. Now it's just a sump pump, but there's another method called an airlift that we're using over there, where you create a pocket of air, bubble, like just little aerators for fish aquariums, and that air bubble lifts the water up, and it uses only about 15 to 20% of the energy. So we're probably going to go to that, but we needed to condition the water over months to do our little bacteria experiment, because what happens, it's the ammonia created by the fish that goes into the beds, and the bacteria breaks down I think it's nitrites first, then another bacteria breaks it down into nitrates that feed the plants, and then it cleans the water, and then it comes back into the fish, creating a loop that sustains everybody. When the water comes in from the pond, it goes into a tank at the bottom here that another pump goes up and supplies each one of these 3 main grow beds. Now, these plants, we had for months, the water had been doing its thing with the ammonia from the fish and from the bacteria in here. So when we planted these plants a week ago, they were half this size. They went stupid right away. So what happened is we learned that we could do a lot more plants. We're afraid that we don't have enough plants to clean the water for the fish. So we're keep adding on more plant. We have like 200 and something plant places that, holders for the plants. So we're about 1/3 there. Now the water pumps up into these beds, and then they have what's called a bell siphon. A bell siphon, when the water, you want it to circulate, it goes up into the tank, then it siphons and drains all the way down, fills up down about every 15 minutes. And you'll have to look up bell siphon and to see how it works. It's hard to explain without me showing you, but bell siphon on YouTube, you see that, that is cool. The Egyptian that thought that up gets a gold star, because that one was, I can see where that could be a benefit for a lot of things. I wish I'd been taught that in school when I was a kid, you know, so I could have used it a bunch of times. Now, this main one here, when it fills up and drains, it goes into the floating beds. Then when the floating beds are, you know, over full, they go back into this, and this tank, when it gets too high, it goes back to the pond. Now there's another tank over here we'll show later, but this is the main system. The water comes in from the pond, it's distributed throughout the grow beds and the float tanks, then it goes back to the pond for recharge. That's it. When we first planned on doing this, we went to a Prepper Fest event that we had our money dome up, and we were there and I got to meet a lot of people. And one of the guys there had a thing called the HOPE system, and it's H2OPE, and it stands for water, purification, and energy. So he's had a water store in Las Vegas, and he created this himself, and he has all kinds of different sizes. HOPE systems, you just go look that up online, man, it is awesome. They've got little suitcase ones, big ones, little ones. This you can put up to 3 large marine lead acid batteries in there. You can get lithium ion, you can do all kinds of stuff, whatever battery you want. But what it does is it has quick connects. On here, you just connect it, you just go bam, and it's done. You know, it is amazing how fast and easy this works, and I'll show you the 2-compartment sink that we're doing and how we're going to be using that to have powered water. I need pressurized water because I want to do everything out here. I'll rinse my plants off, I'll prepare them, eat them, got a table, everything. But I needed pressurized water. Now this purifies water also. I can throw that hose into a swamp and it goes through, it has reverse osmosis, it has an ultraviolet, it has a carbon filter, it does alkaline. I mean, it's amazing what it does, but it also pumps water. We could do irrigation, we could do filtration, we do showers with it. When we go up to, you know, the Jackalope Freedom Festival, we use this for powering everybody's phones and everything, and power the showers, okay? Well, what happens is, this is mobile, it just has a handle that pulls out and it's got wheels and you just go. So what we used it for months in the summer, this powered the entire dome. The problem is that the roll-out solar panels that we had, as the sun went down in the wintertime, I didn't have a place to put them, you know, that it was getting enough sun. So we may hang them off the dome itself. So that's what we're probably going to do. So we unplugged it because we need to hook up the plumbing into the sink system and do it. But I ran this for months. When there was no sun and there was a weather system in for like 3 or 4 days, the power of the batteries was able to run this entire system the entire time. So the reason for the HOPE system is if I take the domes down, put it on a trailer, this entire system can fit on my little trailer along with this power system, and I show up somewhere, I got food, I got purified water, I got pressurized water, I got power. I'm freaking, who wants me in their bug out, you know? That's why. The whole purpose of this was to be able to be self-sustaining. Now that was kind of the point. I wanted my grandchildren to eat well, to have, you know how food goes. They help me. Every Monday they come over and we spend at least an hour working on the dome. You know, the aqua dome. We're gonna go work on the dome. So they understand and see, they think this is normal. So they're just one of my sons just bought a home in the backyard. They have an area, they're putting in the aquadome. So, I mean, I'm sorry, the grow beds and so on, the aquaponics. Now, the table here, this is just a 4x8 sheet of plywood that we put in, and it's supported by the same conduit EMT that we're using for the dome that supports this, and this thing is strong. Well, we put the HOPE system in to power. I rinse out all my vegetables, I get them all prepped. Heck, I got the power, I'm gonna do my juicing right freaking here. But the reason we did it this way is a camera goes right there and it hooks into my radio television show. So we can come out here during the 4-minute breaks and the 8-minute breaks between the hours, and we can do all the farming. And by the end of the show, of the 3-hour show that we do, I'm done with my farming for the day and I don't have to do additional video work. It's part of the show. Have a wireless mic, the video feeds into my switcher, and I'm done. And we got these verticals because these hard points on the dome are so strong, I can hang from these. You should get a picture of me hanging from them. So, and we have these strawberries. We got this from the idea of somebody on YouTube that had made these out of strawberries. And all this is PVC drain pipe that you cut every 8 inches on both sides in a heat gun, and you just press it and form it. And then we painted it to make it look cool, because it's got to be cool. So these are part of the 200 plant areas that we have. The sink, the camera, the mic, it's all inspiration for everybody to grow food. Now this whole area this is on 2 summers ago was where we had a garden, and I spent most of my time weeding. It was amazing. It grew really fast, but there was a lot of maintenance in it. This, I hope, is not going to be any maintenance, and because it's in a circle, it's ergonomic. It's easy, and I don't have to move that much to do a bunch of work. Well, one of the things that we wanted to do, the Hope system worked great, but the sump pumps use a lot of electricity. So we found another way. It's called an airlift system. It's just air like you use for, you know, aerating water for fish. And what it does is that pump makes an air bubble at the bottom of this, and then we have, you know, some of these pipes, you know, 10-foot high pipes that lift the air bubble, lifts the water up, and it goes into the top tanks, and that's how we're going to have the water distributed through the vertical growing and into the tanks and so on, is from this airlift pump. The reason is it only uses like 15–20% of the energy. So if we're trying to go off grid or use a solar or something like that, you know, this was a really cool idea. Plus it came with another growing system. And we put this bird netting on because the birds, when we started planting, I just know they're going to come. So I just wanted to make sure, you know. But the water comes into the top here and it just flows back and forth. And we can do a lot of plants here and also start our seedlings and different things. And then of course the water drains back into the tank. So the airlift, that's another thing to look up along with the bell siphon, is to look for airlift pump, and you'll see how that works and how much less energy it uses, and just another way to grow and operate this without using a whole bunch of energy. Now, one of the ways that you can filter just to get the big chunks out coming from the fish pond is called a swirl filter. Now, the way we did this one is the water comes in and then it'll fill up, and it has a pipe that goes in like this, and the drain will come out. You know, the water will fill up here and then it'll go into this and come into the system, and that way we've eliminated a lot of the solids. The solids go to the bottom. We have fresh water from the top that goes into here. It's a really easy way to do it, and one of the benefits of this is the solids go into the tank at the bottom, and we have a drain off to the side of the tank here that we just open that every now and then, flush out all the heavy solids and so on, and we put that on our favorite plants and trees and such, and they get extra.
I wanted to find out a lot more about aquaponics. These systems fascinated me, so I tracked down Endless Food Systems in Arizona to find out maybe about getting a home unit.
Hi, I'm Chad Hudspeth with Endless Food Systems, and I actually grew up on a dairy farm, grew a lot of crops there, but upon graduating college went to the roofing business and was involved with that heavily for 10 or 12 years. And wanted to do something that would, you know, really change the world. I saw these fish-powered gardens, and I thought, man, this is the solution to world hunger. And so started looking into it, started growing a couple different kind of ways, and discovered that this is so much better than the conventional way that I grew up gardening. You know, leaning over and weeding and all that, and how much do you water and how much food do you give the plants. And this thing is completely automatic, so I just thought this has got to be the best. So this is our fish tank. It's about 300 gallons. In a fish-powered garden, we're really relying on the fish to provide the nutrition or the waste for the plants. So it really doesn't matter what kind of fish you use. We have tilapia in here because they handle hot water, and in Pheonix it gets pretty hot. but if you're in a northern climate where it gets cold, trout would be good. So we have a water pump that pulls the water from the fish tank over into the grow beds, and you can plant just about anything you want. There's really only a very few plants that don't do well in aquaponics. Potatoes and carrots are about the only thing. This is Swiss chard right here, and this will grow for a couple of years. You just cut off a stalk as close as you can to the base, and it's really good just raw in your salad, or you can stir fry it with an onion or something. But just about any kind of leafy green or vegetable will grow in these beds.
So you don't have a lot of room. No problem. Chad offers these smaller units.
So the fish tank is where the fish live, and their waste is pulled up by a water pump into the top. These pebbles filter that water and take the waste and convert, actually there's red worms in here that convert that over into a nitrate that the plants can absorb for food. This is our small tabletop version. It's good for maybe one betta fish and for herbs and things like that. But it's a decorative model, and once again, it's completely self-cleaning, so you never have to clean your water or the pebbles. The tricks to making these work really well is called an auto siphon. It's a fairly complex thing, but basically there's a upstand here where the water overflows. This is called the bell. It goes around it. And there's an air pocket created at the top when the water begins to overflow. It creates a suction called a siphon. And then this is just a media guard that goes around the whole thing and keeps the pebbles and anything from getting in there and stopping it up. We had several customers asking for an off-grid package, a way to power these things without electricity. And so this lid is adjustable depending on the angle of the sun. And we just mount the solar panel right to the lid. There's a charge controller on the side over here and a battery on the ground. The battery can also be used as a backup system if you didn't have a solar panel but you were concerned that maybe your power goes off, then your pumps would quit. It automatically kicks on a 12-volt pump. So this is our raft bed. It's just a piece of styrofoam. The roots of the plants hang down straight into the water. These are best for lettuces, leafy greens, anything that's fast growing and small. So you'd want to grow maybe like tomatoes and Swiss chard, things that have a long life in your gravel beds, but anything small and fast growing in your raft beds. Once I discovered these fish-powered gardens and how powerful they were, that they could feed the world, really wanted to manufacture a kit so that people could be self-sustained right at their house, because that was really the powerful thing to me, is that a person could take, you know, a small area, maybe 12 by 20 feet, right in their backyard or in their garage, and grow pretty much all their own food. And to me, that's just amazing. With our large systems, people usually grow outside in a greenhouse or something like that. You can grow indoors using any kind of lights, like a T5 light, but it's going to take quite a bit of electricity. So you could use either a solar tube, which is like a thing you mount on the roof and it directs the light down, or grow outside in a greenhouse.
So what if you don't have a lot of room? Maybe you live in suburbia. Well, no problem. You can plant a surprising amount of fruit trees that'll feed you year-round. Check out the urban farm.
My name is Greg Peterson, and I live at a place in Phoenix, Arizona called the Urban Farm. The Urban Farm is 1/3 of an acre in north central Phoenix. It's 80 feet wide by 160 feet deep, and one of my favorite things to do on them is grow fruit trees. This is an apple tree hedge, and this is one of the ways that I plant fruit trees is in hedges rather than individual trees. And so this is an apple tree hedgerow right here. There's 8 apple trees in 30 feet. I've got them about 3 feet apart. And the interesting thing about this part of it, this is my front yard, but it's actually the neighbor's front yard too. So this is our fence between the 2 yards right here, and I'm standing in his yard right now. Shh, don't tell him. So it's February in Phoenix, Arizona, and the trees, a lot of the trees are still dormant. And this is your grapevines. Love grapes. Grapes do great. I use them, you can see, I use them as a hedge. And this is, again, a fence between the neighbor's house and my house. And come back in 4 months and what you'll see is this nice, dense green hedge full of grapes. So this is the front yard at the Urban Farm. And one of the distinguishing features all the way around the front of the Urban Farm are the fruit trees. I've got apple trees, in a hedge. I've got citrus trees all the way across the front and down the north side of the property, and then sprinkled throughout are different kinds of peaches and apples. And my favorite thing about fruit trees and urban farming is that you plant them once and it makes food for decades. So this is the north side of the property at the urban farm, and you can see a nice hedgerow of citrus. This is great for keeping the privacy in and the neighbors out when you want to keep them out. And I've got several different kinds of citrus growing here. I've got something called a mandarin quat. This is the kind you eat the skin and the inside. The skin's sweet, the inside's really tart. Got our navel oranges, plus, here we go, lemons. Growing fruit trees in an urban area is significantly different than growing fruit trees in a rural area. The big thing with urban fruit trees, you want to keep them small. This peach tree behind me, it's getting a little bit tall because the fruit at the top of this tree is going to be mostly bird food. So we actually want to keep the trees about this size. And during the year I give classes on urban orcharding, that's what we call it. And a big part of what I teach is how to keep your trees small. The perfect sized fruit tree is about 6-7 feet tall and about 6 feet wide. That way you can walk up to it, harvest the fruit right off of the tree. The other great thing about keeping the trees small is you can plant different kinds of peaches, say. And so here on the urban farm, I have peaches that ripen, a variety of peaches that ripens in May, 2 that ripen in June, and 2 that ripen in July. So essentially what I've done is I've created this schedule of peach tree ripening so that I have peaches from May until August.
I hope you learned something from this fun ride. Just remember to get out and try any kind of farming. There's no excuse to stay in a job that you really don't want to be in when there's so many options on how to grow your own food now. So just get out there and farm. This is Terry and Lupo, and thanks for joining me. I want to thank all the great people who donated to help make this documentary a reality. Thanks so much. You can find out more information at lupolinc.com. That's www.lupolink.com. Thank you.